let's make fun of Sam Harris.
Yeah.
So in my book that is coming out, it's been submitted. You'll be hearing more about it very soon. I did an actual chapter where I dealt with this guy and his ideas and his thought experiments and blah, blah, blah. So in that context, I will deal with him. In this context, we will mainly just make fun of him. But I will just say, listening to Sam Harris, honestly, it doesn't surprise me because the same way he's talking about white supremacy is exactly the same. He's using similar narrative structures he's always used, which is that he's an ahistorical essentialist thinker who is, he's probably more rooted in his own biases and less aware of them of literally anybody in public life. I actually cannot think of a similar person, but
he might be the most irredeemable one too.
I agree.
Because Shapiro can be funny sometimes.
Shapiro can be funny.
Every once in a while.
You mean unintentionally?
Yeah.
Because I have definitely never seen Ben Shapiro be funny.
No, because one time he had this thing where me and Deb always quote it, where he's like, the left thinks that if the more oppressed you are, the more right you have to speak. So if we could just find a little person who's a lesbian, transgender, they could rule us. We could have a new king of America.
Hey, that's
kind of funny. Yeah,
it's not bad. But he's
him talking about Brett Kavanaugh's penis. That's funny.
Yeah, I haven't seen the penis. Where's the penis? Where's the penis? No one said anything about the penis. By the way, I'm not going to talk about this person, but I will just say that there is a former PragerU star who a lot of these people were eager to collaborate with, who we might have done a video on once, who his interpretation of the Ben Shapiro thing, I might be too loose about exploring Jewish humor, was one of the more anti-Semitic things, objectively anti-Semitic things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He donned a obscene Jewish character mask and then ranted about penises. That's all I'll say. You could look at it. All right, is this the penis
Well,
thing?
no, I don't think we should actually listen
Let's
to what
just
he says,
watch
but
him bobble his
If you
head.
just look at his head, it's like there's an element to there's a string off camera that's trying to jerk him off.
It does look demonic.
Yeah.
To me, at least. All right. This is Sam Harris. Sam Harris talking about white supremacy-based terrorism reminds me of the old Onion headline where the president of the NRA is like, all right, we'll agree to do something about school shootings, but there has to be 850 children killed. And I'm not talking injury. It has to be deaths. This is a guy who for years has said, you can erase thousands of years of human history. You don't need to know anything about politics, geography, anthropology, history. You don't need to just be a basic inquisitive human being and talk to a broad set of people. There's this book that I don't read in the original language. I've taken some inflammatory quotes from, and I've correlated it with a few polls whose methodology I probably don't even understand, and a couple of current events and all of my biases, and therefore there is Islam and terrorism, and that's it. Here's a thought experiment about nuking them. Here he is talking about white supremacy.
One question I have, though, is around this notion that a lone wolf is never a lone wolf.
Is the photo up?
We should always suspect
of the
that
cover,
a lone
the
wolf
delightful
is part of a larger movement. So, take the case of McVeigh, right? So we all know what it's like to see a white supremacist on television and, interviewed or given an opportunity to state his views, and they're not shy about stating these views.
That's a very dubious thing to say about white supremacists on TV, but, that maybe we should return to later.
Indeed.
On television and, interviewed or given an opportunity to state his views, and they're not shy about stating these views. They're proud of their racism, right? They want to use the platform to further spread these ideas. And we know what those vile chatterboxes are like. And then you have someone like McVeigh who, if he expressed any racism, I'm sure, there are things in his backstory that suggest he was racist, but I recently watched the one interview he gave from death row for 60 Minutes, and he didn't express anything like that there. And when given an opportunity to account for what he had done, he put it in terms that were really entirely focused on the misapplication of state power. He said, unlike the example you gave of the the veteran who said, I killed communists over there, and why not kill them here? He gave a certainly less white supremacist gloss on what he had done. He said, listen, I was in Iraq and I killed people over there and I got medals for it. But, what was I doing over there killing people? That wasn't my country.
Then you come here and you blow up a few babies.
Yeah.
And I get the death penalty.
Yeah, we can skip.
I also just don't. I mean, the thing, though, is that McVeigh, it's just so disingenuous because, first of all, yes, McVeigh read the Turner Diaries, which is a quintessential white terrorism, white supremacist text, right? But also
maybe the most famous one.
Maybe the most famous one. So of course, Mr. You just have to read the hadiths doesn't do the basic background checks there. But actually, there's many interviews with Timothy McVeigh, and for whatever reason, yes, Timothy McVeigh has never emphasized a racial dimension of what he does. So what he's doing is he's ignoring the most salient piece of evidence and then just basically picking somebody who certainly would fit under right-wing anti-governmental terrorism, but was not racially fixated the same way you could talk about, as an example, the guy who shot up and murdered the people at the Sikh Gurdwara, as an example. So it doesn't even...
Well, this is like when he saw an interview with Tommy Robinson. He's like, well, you got to admit that interview was unobjectionable,
everything
right?
he said in that interview was reasonable. And of course, as we all know, proper intellectual work means that you never read the context, history, or setting for anything.
Anyway,
and if you do, that's unfair.
Baloo comes in here.
And coordinated through a movement. That's not all of them, but it's a lot of them. And we haven't done enough to understand what that is and why that's motivating people to violence. Now, McVeigh, so there's a couple of, let me just start with what we know about him. And I'll just start with a methodological distinction, which is historians a lot of the time really distrust what people say about something after the fact. We prefer to see what they did. And McVeigh's life gives us some evidence that his, public comments sort of don't show, including, as you mentioned, his affiliation with the Michigan militia. He also wrote letters to his sister saying he was going underground and encouraging her to continue above ground activism, and he was going to sort of go off the grid. He had attempted contacts with a whole bunch of different white power groups, including the Arizona Patriots, the National Alliance, which, by the way, is the one headed by the man who wrote the Turner Diaries, and the separatist compound at Elohim City, which had sheltered a whole bunch.
I'm sorry. I just want to say I didn't hear this. So I like that my initial instincts is tracking with the actual expert that Sam Harris is trying to distract with his
That's
nonsense.
actually Sam under that hood.
Actually, it's kind of a stylish it's a good look, and it breathes well.
So a lot of people would say that because I was in the hood of a Grand Dragon, automatically Sam Harris is racist. He's in the KKK. This is a total disaster and a smear.
The National Alliance, which, by the way, is the one headed by the man who wrote the Turner Diaries, and the separatist compound at Elohim City, which had sheltered a whole bunch of people on the lam who were members of the Order and other white power terrorist groups that were organized in leaderless resistance style. He chose the date of the bombing on the anniversary of the Waco siege. That's pretty well known, but also on the execution date of a prominent white power activist who had once targeted that same building in Oklahoma City. He once lived with somebody.
I just want to say, all I know about this podcast, and I don't know much about Kathleen Ballou, although I think she's like a real historian. So props to Harris for having a real historian on.
She was on MR. She was good.
I don't remember that.
It was a vacation show.
Oh, okay. I do see, though, I think Ina from Polite Conversations, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe she tweeted out that apparently Sam said in one of his laborious, those 1,000-minute introductions or something, where he's just like, but before we get to it, somebody tweeted that, something, blah, 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 that Kathleen Ballou was pretty woke, and that next week he'd be talking with Barry White.
Yeah, he said that after the interview.
That's amazing, though. You talk to an actual historian who is able to just not even argue with you, but just be like, yeah, basically, Sam, you're literally missing all salient information here. And then it's just like, yeah, I don't know. But next week I'll be talking to a brain dead moron from the New York Times, and we will both be patting each other on the back, pretending simultaneously that white supremacy isn't an issue, and that also saying that Palestinians possess respiratory systems is an existential threat to Jews everywhere. Looking forward to that one.
The thing about it, where does Sam get off saying that white supremacists are strictly forthright about their views on media? I think we should do an impromptu Hitchens throwback here when he had Tom Metzger on.
Oh, I like it.
Here's just a part of it. This whole thing is actually very good, but this part is funny.
If Hitchens could have redeemed, not entirely, because he's got a lot. He does, if we're being real. Between Afghanistan and Iraq, he has a lot of blood, and he enabled a lot of stuff. But he did a lot of great things too, and he was a charm and a raconteur. And if he was alive and was just here to bully Sam Harris, he would be making up a lot of ground.
So you don't care. In other words, so if you were told it was true, you wouldn't say the person saying so was a liar and a prisoner of Jewish propaganda.
I doubt.
You're not even a Holocaust revisionist.
Well, history is not history anymore. It's by special lobbyist groups that come in and try to knock each other to get certain ideas in. So the fact that they spend so much time on the issue is questionable in itself.
Will you allow me to say, abuse my privilege and say I'm a bit disappointed? I was kind of looking forward to this, and now you're disappointing me. You don't seem to have the cowardice of your convictions, or courage is perhaps the word I mean.
Let's set the
Look, we've got your
higher.
father on the line who's said to be a real tough guy. Mr. Metzger Sr., can we get you in with us?
Yeah, sure. Very clever.
How do you think the boy's shaping up?
Well, you're a very clever interrogator, sort of a second best Bill Buckley, but you're trying. I mean, you
certainly know how to hurt a guy, I'll say that for a start. I was wondering how you thought the boy was doing.
Hitler. I mean, is there anything else in the world besides Jews to talk about?
Cuffed his father,
as I said, to your firstborn, if that's what he is, anyway, your son, Mr. Metzger. It's a question that need only be asked once, as long as it's answered. Would you accept that as fair?
But what question is this?
If you force me to restate it, you can't complain it keeps coming up, can you? I want to know, since your organization simultaneously says the Holocaust is a myth, but appears to support those who think it was a jolly good thing, which of those two things you think yourself?
Well, what we have said is an exaggerated, the figures are exaggerated, and the facts are showing that to be true as each year passes by. But our concern is with the third world invasion of this nation that's robbing and stripping.
Donald Trump, keep going.
The Euro-American of everything he's got.
But you say that the Jews, you say the Jews are behind all that.
All your time talking about something that happened 50 years ago.
I don't think I need to waste.
I don't care what happened to the Jews.
See, in other words, not forthright.
Right.
He had to bring his dad on, and his dad was a little bit more forthright and still not there.
Yeah, but still a punk and still not what they're saying behind the scenes. Exactly, which is another reason that the idea that you like listening, because I listened to Polite Conversations with Ina, her like longer term dissection of this, and she plays like Sam Harris being like legitimate, like, and always like, I hate Trump, but basically like, I hate Trump because he's dumb, right? Like the most superficial and just like wanky reason to not like
aesthetic
Trump, right?
reasons.
It's all aesthetics. And then, oh, and he'll say that he's immoral or whatever, but then like really be like, you know, it's like we need to dissect whether or not telling the woman in the squad to go home was actually racist.
He hates Trump because Trump had sex. He's just mad at him.
He hates Trump because Trump has a little like actual libidinal energy and can occasionally provide a little bit of fun. You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.